welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your host, Daniel.
And Daniel.
Daniel, it feels like it's been a while.
It's been about a week. When we should have recorded last week, that's why we did a double episode the week before, because we had planned to do something.
Right, I forgot that we weren't filming last week.
Yeah.
That's why it feels so long. But,
yeah, we decided we needed to do one last Bookman's run, what we call it.
That's right.
To go to Tucson to trade in some games. Because somebody had to go back to work early instead of being like a normal teacher and going back in August.
You're telling me. I am on your side with that.
Oh, it's funny because I have two friends that are teachers, you and my other friend Angel that I've mentioned. Both of you complained to me the same way about going back to school. And so we were talking about I'm surprised. They're saying I'm surprised he wants to go up there on a Tuesday before going back to school on a Wednesday. And I'm like, yeah, but our other friend couldn't go on a Monday because he had job interviews.
Right.
And you're like, it's just training. Screw that.
Yeah. Well, no, it was an optional thing, so I was like,
No. It was more along about the thing is
good.
The Wednesday. You're like, I'm going to be bored anyway.
Oh,
I might as well do Tuesday. Have
it won't
fun.
be too bad. No, and then the truth of the matter is, students start tomorrow. Kinders start tomorrow, and then Thursday is when all the rest of the students. It's going to be 111 tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
I'm not looking forward to
that's how our state works. Is they're our kids aren't in school enough. Let's send them to do PE class.
And 111
degree weather.
And then you don't really have an auditorium in your school, so
they have a portable with a single window.
They have to go outside in that, and portables suck when it comes to heat.
We so there was a heat index chart that we're looking at today, and we're talking about at what point is it too much for the kids to have caution? Yeah, heat exhaustion. Anybody? Yeah, and the chart that we saw, which was provided from the New Mexico Athletics, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They only start at 40% humidity. It's we don't get 40% humidity. Our temperature is our temperature.
We're an oven, not humidity.
Yeah, exactly. So it's it's still So hear me out. We actually like the weather. I do.
I don't mind the dry heat. It's just.
Yeah.
Again, people always complain, oh, you live in a dry heat. It's dry. You're not humid. It's not 90 degrees or 70% humidity. Yeah, you're right, but you know what else is hot? Is an oven. I don't want to live in that either.
An oven has a dry heat, yeah. But it also has shade, surprisingly enough, too.
Yeah.
No, it's a slow melt, yeah. It's a dry melt is what it is, right? That's how our weather works. Honestly, 110 degree weather, yeah, it's really unpleasant if you have to be out in the sun directly. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, since it's so common here, yeah, the hot wind is rough. But since it's so common here, that's really
you acclimate
expected.
to it, yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. And the businesses around here, if they know they're doing stuff outside, they don't do work during this time frame, or they only do stuff that can be help taken care of, right?
Yeah.
They help mitigate that
and
problem.
The thing is, we have a big roofing. There's a lot of people who's doing roofing. There's a lot of house stuff out here building.
Yep.
And so what they'll do is they'll have them go in at 5 or 6 in the morning before.
Very early.
Yeah, very early, and then they'll be knocked off by noon, 1 o'clock.
And what's cool is we don't have a nightlife in town. It's just too small for that.
Mm-hmm.
But during this time of year, if you can tell who has a day job and not, because all of the lights are on at night. You drive around, you're like, oh yeah, he has a day job. He does not. They do not. Their garage door is open and they're cleaning it, and it's 2 a.m. What is going on here?
Yeah, it's rough. The heat is rough. I'm not going to deny that. I mean, we set a record today with our temperature. It's 8 o'clock at night, and it's still 102 degrees outside.
Yep.
That's telling you, it's 8 o'clock at night.
Yep.
7:51.
It's gonna get dark pretty soon. Yeah.
It is still 102 degrees.
Yep.
Where my wife, she's in Cleveland training for her new job.
Yeah.
It's 75 degrees.
Right, and when we went to Tucson last week, it wasn't that much hotter.
Yeah, it wasn't that much hotter.
Now.
The only problem with when we went to Tucson, it felt hotter because
it was humid.
It was humid, and there was
it was bizarre.
Not a lot of breeze.
Yeah, it was oddly humid. I remember getting out of the car for the first time. I'm like, all right, it's not gonna be that. What in the world?
Mm-hmm.
There's moisture in the air. What is this? Yeah, it was weird. But again, go to anywhere inside, here in New Mexico, we have air conditioners everywhere. Yeah.
Both of us now have refrigerated air, so
Yep.
thank God for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because also it didn't help that we have like little spots of rain lately, so it adds the humidity. If you have a swamp cooler, it's not going to do anything for you.
Nope. Actually, I do have one more distinct advantage. Where I work, my classroom is directly below the AC there.
Well, your room has to be cooler.
It has to be. It's a computer lab, right? And everyone who goes into my classroom, they're like, "Wow, this is cold." I'm like, yeah, sure is. You're welcome to hang out if you want, but I know you got work to do.
It's funny. A lot of people used to make fun of my wife because she used to work at a hospital here, and she would always wear a jacket 24/7, basically. Because,
they keep it cold.
She worked in the MRI department. They have to keep that room under 70 degrees, or else the machine will overheat.
Yeah.
And you don't want an MRI machine quenching because of heat.
Nope.
So she always had a jacket on.
Yeah. So Luminous, honestly, like and Corrupt, it's really not as bad as it sounds. And Creative Chaos lives here too, so they know.
It's warm though.
It's warm. It's unpleasant, but really, like I tell this to everybody. Yeah, when you get into the car, it's like the seatbelts are scalding, and so is this. But wait for a few moments, the air kicks up, right? If it was like blizzard weather, you would have to shovel snow, you'd have to scrape your windows, you have to do all this stuff outside the car first before you can do anything. So, massaging in the heat. Oh, I can imagine.
Well, it's funny too, because like people are like,
yeah,
why don't you use your garage to park your car? And I'm like, it's not going to make any difference. The garage, my seatbelt's not going to be hot, but the car is still going to be hot.
Oh yeah, the car is.
My garage is about 120 degrees earlier today.
They don't air condition the garage.
No.
Like, that doesn't matter.
Well, it's just more like along the shades. Like people were saying, like you put it in the shade, you don't have to worry about all that hot stuff. I'm like, it's still going to be hot in the car.
What is funny, next to our parking lot at work, there is a pretty large tree, like on the edge of the parking lot, and that's where everyone parks. It's like, as long as you're in the shade, you're fine.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Well, with that being said, before we get started, let's mention a caveat here. We are doing a little things out of order right now, because we just didn't know if we were going to record today because you were working late. So we were supposed to do a top 8 debate, but we didn't have time to put up a poll and stuff like that. So we're moving it to next week. Chits and Giggles is taking its place this week.
That's right. Boy, do we have a good one for you.
And we're just swapping them. Yeah. That's all we're doing.
We have a very interesting one that I was very happy when I came up with this idea, and you kind of put it off. You're like, it's fine.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then now's the perfect time for it, because I think this is hilarious.
Did you see any scouts in the wild before we get going?
Oh, I'm sure I did.
I haven't been able.
We got you. We got you.
Yeah, I still haven't been able to go to that particular store to go check myself.
Yeah, we don't want to give them free advertising. They do enough advertising.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I'm sure I've seen one. I'll double check though.
All right, but in this one, our topic is going to be games that shine at each player count. And since we normally do 8 is our number.
Yep.
We're doing our 8 picks, solo, 2-player, up to 8+ players.
Yep, that's right.
And for us, when it comes to the 8, it's 8+ specifically. So anything higher than an 8-player, it works.
And now, so a lot of these games that we picked, and we were discussing this before we started filming and recording, is that we wanted to talk about games that really just shine at that player count, and not like it's like, oh well, this is like a game that's only 2-player. I picked games that I'm like, I would probably not play it outside of that player count. Maybe some wiggle room, but really, I'm like, this game is absolutely fantastic at this player count. And so some of them might be a little strange on here, but it'll make more sense when I go into it.
Mine aren't that strange. There's one that's kind of random, but I only play this game at this player count, really. Yeah. Mind you, I haven't played this game in a long while, but...
Yeah, there is one where I was like, I would play this at almost any player count, but I do like what it does.
We're also going to change it up a little bit, just because this way it's not we're doing like our 8+ player game all the way down to our solo game. We're actually going to randomize it by a die face here. A little D8. It's really, really tiny.
Yep, he has a tiny little D8. And...
whatever it rolls, we're going to do that number. If it's a number that we've already done, we'll just re-roll it.
Or we could just pick the next one down.
Yeah.
Well, either way.
Don't lose it. I have a little baggie for it.
Yep. This little baggie that would normally hold just like two D6s normally, like regular size 16mm. Yeah, it has a whole polyhedral set.
Yep.
So yeah, we should be all right.
Yeah, we should be fine. So, you ready to get started?
Yeah, but before we do, though,
okay.
I have a question for you, Daniel.
What's that?
How do you like this segue? Speaking of games that are great at player counts, we've been playing games at different player counts in our group. What have you been playing lately?
Every single one of these games that I've been playing lately, I've played at 4 players.
Well, that's your fault, not mine. Thanks for ruining my segue. I've played mine at... Yes, I've played 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, 1, 2, and 3 player counts.
So the first game that I want to talk about, I'm going to go ahead and get the negative out of the room real quick. This was a game that we played at a buddy of ours pick on our game group. It was his pick that night.
Oh, was I here that night?
Yes, you were. We were actually texting each other.
Oh.
And
yes.
I was hoping to really, really like this game.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was too.
It had its moments. It had some really neat stuff that it was doing. But it was so convoluted.
Yes.
A lot of the stuff that it wanted to do.
I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't remember what game it was, but I remember us texting and going, really kind of want this to end.
Yeah. And that is The Great Wall.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be like a worker placement game where you're building the wall, you're trying to fight off the Mongol hordes, you're kind of trying to work together but not working together because, you know, you're rival clans in a sense.
Right.
And so you're dealing all this stuff, and it was... I really wanted to like it. I say it's average at best.
Sorry, Luminous. We're going to shoot it down a bit. But again, your mileage may vary.
Yeah,
we'll explain why.
And the thing is, it was long for one thing. It was really, really long. We expected it. It was a TTK.
We played it as 4 players, brand new to all
of us. Yeah.
So keep that caveat in mind.
But my thing is like it has a really tricky mechanism where you play a card out, then you decide where you want to play the card out, and you then decide you have to play that card out all the way to completion. So the person who played that card, if it's the first one in the line, they do that thing, and then everybody follows with a certain step. And then they could do maybe a bonus action if there's other cards that are in that, I forget what they're called, like the timeline or something like that, or in the line. And that takes forever. And then you have to go into the Mongol phase where they're hoarding. And then you have to do this, and you have to do that, and you're trying to gather resources, and your general gives you this power, and your advisors, you got to choose how to use your advisors for this, or to give you a little bonus ability. It's got a lot of great stuff going for it, but I think it's just too convoluted what it's trying to do. Right. It tried to take a simple mechanism, worker placement,
right,
and then card drafting or card action play, and trying to, okay, I know they need to do this, but so what do I play this card because I know I'm going to be able to do something because of this card.
Right.
I know someone's going to play that card, and then I get to take all this. Yeah, it is an engine builder, but the way you build that engine is just it doesn't fire like most card drafting games. Like It's a Wonderful World, great engine builder. Gizmos, great engine builder. Wingspan has a decent engine building mechanism. Terraforming Mars, great engine builder. This was more like the jalopy car that you buy off the used card lot, where it has an engine, but is it really that great?
Yeah. I have a quick question. Are you going to talk about the Moon game?
The Moon game. Okay. We already talked about it.
Okay, cool. So, Illuminous, I agree with you. I do think people want that degree of complexity, but it can be done
smart.
Tsukuyumi Down was an example of how it was done. Mm-hmm. That could have been overcomplicated, but the way that they took it, yeah, it wasn't cleaner. The problem, like the reason why I thought it was convoluted is that, yeah, the game was
gorgeous.
Was amazing.
The art is amazing.
I feel like very strongly that Great Wall would be much better at 2 players. At 4, it definitely outstayed its welcome.
3, I think it would be okay. Honestly, it's just because things you're the downturn. Because I think that game holds up to like 4 or 5 players. I would not want to play it at a higher player count again.
I wouldn't want to play it again.
I wouldn't mind
at all.
I wouldn't mind playing it again because there were so many moving parts. There were some missed rules and stuff like that. I want to try to give it a second chance.
Sure.
But as of right now,
it just like what I had the biggest problem with, right, is that but I had two problems with it. One, you had kind of like that initiative thing where you're trying to jump like up an initiative.
Yeah.
But that's only the initiative of how the turns are taken per card. But then the cards themselves have their own turn order, and then the priority goes to whoever played the card.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of weird how it works. So like when you play the card, you don't really get to do the turn order. So like if I play this card to put dudes on the map,
right?
I don't get to put my dudes on the map first because of the way the initiative is. You get to put your dudes on the map, but then I have like a different ability. So like I can put stuff. Like, I could put all the stuff that I want to put out on one spot where you have to split every spot. It's just, it is so...
Like, that part of it was frustrating. Like, and when you get to that level, it's like, well, you're going to play a card that your turn order will decide when... You get to decide when you want to play it. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, there's no benefit to doing, like, really... Like, straight up, there is really no benefit to choosing what turn order there is. Yeah. Unless if you're like, oh, well, I want to go first... I have a disadvantage. Oh, it's like, but I want to go last. It didn't matter when the cards were played, really. It could have been just as simple as pick them at random and then follow that initiative order. Well, if you want to do yours quicker, jump on that order. It would have given it more substance than that.
And it's also like a lot of the stuff, like if you do certain things alone by yourself, then you get shame, which basically takes soldiers away for you. It's Creative Chaos. It is very overly complicated for what it's trying to do.
Yeah.
Because it's trying to blend engine building with worker placement, with kind of like a card selection, action selection style game. Mm-hmm. That also has to basically fight Mongol hordes that are coming in. So you have little, not really dudes on the map, but there is a war concept on it, and you have to be more efficient at that war than the other players.
Right.
And so it's just, it has too many moving parts for me to really, really enjoy it. I like convoluted games.
Yeah, there's plenty of games to that level that I've played that I've really enjoyed.
Tsukuyomi being one.
Yeah, Tsukuyomi being one. And that's definitely not my style. But my other argument against it, and the other reason I personally didn't like it, is that I felt that there was, despite how complex it was, there was some incredibly arbitrary choices. And what I mean by that is the worker placement part of the game. If you're the only one to go there, you're going to get essentially a penalty, right? And I knew that going in, and then by playing that way, that gives players like, oh, well, if I see Daniel going just for that spot, I can either jump in there and neither of us would get a penalty, or I can refuse to go there and stick him with a penalty. And since there's so many times where you're moving your people around before anything is resolved, like you're either completely following or you're blindly choosing, because it's gonna change. It's gonna change about 4 or 5 times before anything resolves. And my problem with that is that, and you saw how I think you noticed what I was doing. I'm like, I'm 100% going for the penalties. Because here's the thing. If you guys don't want the penalties, you're going to jump on there anyway. But if you guys are going to stick with me, I might as well have that choice. Yeah. So I was actually aiming for the empty spots on purpose to make you guys make that decision. And I was like, I'm going to see at the end of the game if there is enough way for me to mitigate these. Because then at that point, if the game doesn't provide me enough ways to mitigate these penalties that I'm accruing on, like, out of my control, then that tells me that there's no agency in the game. And that was my goal, is I did everything that I could functional wise to get rid of the penalties, but then at the same time during the worker placement I was accruing them on purpose, because I felt that it would have given me that option to be able to mitigate enough of them. And that means that you could straight up king make in that. And that's why I had that frustration with it. I was like, it was already convoluted, and then it is. Yeah, we might. Yeah,
I mean, like I said, I have no problem giving it another chance. It just, it didn't seem to me like I wanted to, because I was going into it after watching the Watch It Played video for it. Not Watch It Played exactly, but their personal video on YouTube. I'm like, I like what it's doing. I don't really get how that's supposed to work properly. Right. But it's still, it's just... Yeah. It's doing too much. There has to be a line somewhere. Right. You could take out, like, honestly, if you took out like the card thing that you're talking about, or the shame possibilities as well, that game would seem a little bit better because you have more agency in what you're doing,
right,
instead of having to rely on what other people were doing as well.
Right. And here's the thing: like, there's always a saying that everyone always says in our game group when it's a versus game, kill the wizard first, right?
Yeah.
And it's a joke, right? It's a funny thing. But if the game benefits you by screwing someone over, I'm the loser of that game. And when the game makes it where it's beneficial to mess someone over like that, that's why I was like, I need to see if this game is going to allow me to mitigate all the crap that you guys are going to dish to me, because I know it's coming. And that's why I had to go for that, right? There's really, like, that's why I went full Loki when I played that. I knew you guys were going to do that. So I have to see if I can pull it off.
All right,
like,
so
go extreme, right?
Into the inside joke. Kill the wizard first comes from, what is that Dungeons and Dragon game we were playing? Was it Dragonfire?
Something like that, yeah.
It was playing so there's a card that always came up. He played the wizard. Yep. And there's a card that always came up that said kill the wizard first.
Right.
And so now it's just a joke because you're also a magician, so...
Right. So kill the wizard first.
Kill the wizard
And I totally get it. And that's not a fault to it. But if you guys have that much choice to just go, all right, we're all going to compete and we're making him lose too. It's nothing against you, but if the game allows it, that's a problem.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah,
I should have a way to mitigate that, and I don't feel that it did.
And with that negative out of the way, what is your first game?
I'm so sorry. And Illuminous, like I said, there's a lot of cool things going into it, and I think you might dig it still. Yeah. That's just the first time I played it, it just got frustrating. But that's me.
The art's really nice in that. That is top notch.
Yeah. The components are phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
They're really cool.
Awakened Realm's really good on that part.
I got nothing against it. And the rules were pretty solid. We understood.
Exactly what's going on. It's very convoluted, in all honesty.
All right, my first one that I wanted to talk about was one that I played fairly recently, and it's from one of my favorite designers. Well, I shouldn't say one of my favorite designers. He designed my favorite game of all time, but his other games...
You already played this?
I already played it.
Damn.
I already played it.
You bought it, what, a week ago?
I did. I bought it I bought it literally 1 week ago, and I've already played it. Got it to the table. Got it to the table as a 2-player game. It's a game called Fire and Stone. And this is about, you are basically, like, not really cavemen, but like the first settlers kind of spreading out from South Africa. And you're going amongst all these regions. There's a little bit of engine building. Yeah, I don't know. That's just where
Central Africa?
No, it starts in South Africa. It's just to where it starts. It's just how you move on the board.
Sure.
So you have a base movement. You always move 2 spots, and then you flip over the token that's on it. If the token's already face up, you do the action. So at first it seems a bit random. He's staring at his dog right now. It's not Stone Age. No. It's called Fire and
Stone.
Yeah.
Right. It's Pegasus Spiel?
Is it?
Yes, the 21.
I think it is, yeah. And it's Pegasus Spiel. It's made by Klaus-Jürgen Werder, who made Carcassonne. So that's why I bought it, knowing into it. And so at first, it gives you this idea. It's like, oh, it's just kind of a random move and then see what tile it is, right? But there's really more to it than that. There is... That dog is staring at us. He's very interested in this game. If you make a campsite, well, then campsites are really good because that first gives you a point, but then anybody can spawn from those campsites from then on out. Also, when you go to a campsite, you can cook your food, which is another spot. If you find a forest tile, you draw 3 of the tokens, you look at them, and you get the first pick. So anybody who goes from there from subsequent turns gets to pick lesser and lesser food, which will either let you build up your engine to get more bags, or it'll let you get more food as total. And so you can only do that by cooking it, though. So that's important. So you need to go to the campsites. But then you also have tiles that'll just straight up give you points. You have tiles that will let you get certain kind of crops, and you can gather certain ones, which will let you get different game abilities, which will let you move further or build a boat and move across water tiles. So there's some simple stuff in it. But what makes it really interesting is that in Age 2, you're building your you're building your huts on there, and that's mainly how you get your points.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's only a few spots where you're going to be fighting over the majority for these huts.
Mm-hmm.
The part that makes it really interesting, there is a deck of 24 cards, and you shuffle them up, and you put one of them on the board at the beginning of the game. 24 cards, and you choose one at random. And when you flip over the cave tile, it will introduce a new mechanism or rule or point value system or something else that then you need to work for. So the one that we got was something like it was like a really important like settling city.
Okay.
And it was like, oh well, now huts on this city are worth 2 points instead of 1. Majorities are still normal. Right, and so then suddenly me and my friend Jim, we were fighting over that city, like, because in order to put a hut there, you have to pay more than the total number of huts that are already there.
Okay.
And so, like, there's a lot of cool give and take, give back and forth, like kind of bidding on spots for majorities, points, all that stuff. It's a very simple core game. It works pretty well. I liked it. I don't think that it was. I would give it probably a solid 7 out of 10. I'm raving about it a little bit. I want to play it more because I really like that turning point.
I think you might like it when it's at a higher player count too.
That's true. I only played as 2, so there was a lot less stuff going around.
Yeah.
So I would like to try it at 2. But overall, it was pretty interesting, and I'm curious to try it again. All right, let's see here. So,
if you need to tilt it, you can.
So can that give a person advantage, disadvantage based on what you were doing before? So yes, to a degree, from what I understand. Some of them are pretty interactive. I didn't look through all of them because I kind of wanted to see like the surprise of it. But the one we did was specifically catering to just the spot that we flipped over. So as soon as it became a cave, it became a place where you could put huts, where normally you have to find a spot to do it. But for some of the others, does seem like it would give some players an advantage, which may or may not be good, but everything seemed mitigatable. So like everybody still has a chance. It's just somebody had a head start on information that they didn't know anyway. So there's that. It was pretty fun.
Cool. I do want to check this one out. I've been looking at it, but...
Oh, hold on. One more thing. When you're getting the crops, you remember those special abilities I was talking about?
Yeah.
You also have the option of getting victory points instead of a new ability. However, you have a deck of cards that start at 3 points, then 2, then 1, and then a higher player count starts at 4 points, and so they dwindle down. So the sooner you act on it, the better. Mm-hmm. But in order to take that card, you have to cover up a previously gained ability. So you lose that ability, but you gain potentially the better points. That was really cool.
That's
I like
neat.
that. That was a smart little turning point on it. Anyway, what's your next game that you've been playing?
So the next game is one we have talked about for a while. I finally got myself a copy of this after hunting it for a while because I wanted the specific one that you had, but I could never find it.
Oh.
So I ended up buying myself a copy, which it's a fine version of it. And this is Sid Sackson's Can't Stop.
Ooh, yep, right above your head.
Yeah, took it over to some friend's house of ours. I've mentioned them before, Angel Maria, because I really wanted to show it to my wife and my other friend. They're both really thinky players, and so push your luck is kind of hit or miss with them.
Right.
Oh, they love this game. Yeah. I mean, it's pure fun because it's like, do I keep going? I already got my third runner out there. Do I keep wanting to mess with things? You know what I mean? And so, yeah, no, it does really well. That one's actually a nice version. The stop sign is actually a player mat that you can actually turn and things don't slide. Your runner pieces are good chunky wood pieces.
Interesting.
The dice are just like the plain dice. Yeah, it's really nice copy of it. We had a blast playing it. It's real simple. You roll 4 dice. You got to make a pair on them. You have to if you can put 2 runners, you have to put 2 runners out. Mm-hmm. But there was times, like especially after we had our runners already out, like in my second or third turn, I was just hitting 7s. Like I could make both pair of dice into 7s, so I'm just moving that one runner without having to put my other runner on the board. So,
which is such a good strategy.
Yeah,
too.
It's so fun. And we were joking with my wife and messing with her and told her like, yeah, keep doing it, because she had all 3 of her runners out. She was already maxed out on the 7. Oh, she had a runner on the 2 and a runner on the 4. She hit snake eyes and 2 2s twice to win the game.
Wow.
I'm like, that is amazing. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
She really had a blast.
Talking about stand-up moments.
Yeah,
right?
like she had a blast. My other friend, who they're really like in the heavier side of games, like where they like to strategize. They don't like really a lot of lucking games.
Sure.
This one, they just were laughing and joking, and everybody's egging someone on. It's like, do it, come on. You know you want to roll the dice. You know you want to do it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep.
Doing that sort of stuff, and we were having a blast doing it. I got close to winning. I had mine on the 7 as well. I was 1 away on the 12, and I was like 2 or 3 away from the 6.
Yep.
But yeah, and right before it got back to my turn is when she ended it. So
of course you
can't stop. It's such a good game.
All right, my next one I want to talk about, and I can only talk about it briefly because me and my mutual friend that we played Fire and Stone with, or that I played Fire and Stone with, him and I have been really getting into escape rooms a little bit more lately because we've been working a little bit on it because him and I own an escape room business. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about it, and for inspiration, we've been playing one of the Unlock series.
Is it the gaming one?
No, it's not. It's the Heroic Adventures.
Okay, yeah.
This one has 3 different ones. One is a video game themed, one is Sherlock Holmes, and one is Alice in Wonderland. And it's in that order of from easier to harder.
Yeah.
We both love Sherlock Holmes theme. He's a huge video gamer, and I could just say like they've made so many of these unlock scenarios and stuff, and you would think that after a while they would start getting it boring.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, they would start running out of ideas and stuff, and that's a legitimate concern.
Yeah.
I can tell you as far as that Heroic Adventures one, which is not quite their newest, it was like last year or something.
Yeah.
The things that it did was so cool. Like those were every single time I play an Unlock game, it gets better and better and better, and just some of the cool things. I will say like non-spoiler, or it's not too spoilery, but one of the scenarios definitely used the app to great effect. Like it was like there was times where you would just have to like kind of go, okay, how am I going to do this, and how am I going to adapt the app? And you would like hover your picture over it, and it would have overlaid pictures on top of the cards.
Okay.
And there's no QR codes or anything like that, so it had to figure out how to figure out what it was looking at and how to put the images on top of it, and they worked really well.
That's cool.
And so there's a lot of cool little stuff on that, but it's so great. And Grit 12 Gauge, thank you for joining the chat. New support games, loving all of them. Just pick up Brass Birmingham, Lost Island. Sweet. Nice. Good choices. Which one do you play first? I've not played Lost Island nor Brass Birmingham. I've been wanting to play Brass Birmingham, though.
The only one I played is Brass Birmingham, so I'd recommend starting with that, but just be forewarned, it is a heavy game.
Yeah. If you're saying you're newish to games, I don't know the weight of Lost Island, but my recommendation, probably Brass Birmingham, because it looks really fun, but know going into it that it's a heavier game.
Yep.
Which, by the way, for your player counts, stick around while we talk about that. But yeah, no. So the Unlock Heroic Adventures, I was really impressed with it. The last one I played from Unlock was really good, and I like how I'm okay with the destruction of the exits because they do a lot of cool manipulative stuff. But so Unlock had to step it up on the app side of it, and it really does. So both of those are still fantastic.
I still need to play my Star Wars copy.
I know, same here, and as well as my board game meta one.
Yeah, so I want to get the board game one as well.
I can't wait to play that one.
All right, so moving into my next game, let's go into a heavier style game here. It's actually relatively new to me. Well, it is new to me, but I'm talking about like just getting it in the mail. I think it's not even a month old since I bought it. This is one our mutual friend wants to play. You've looked at it and thought it was kind of interesting too. This one is Books of Time.
Yes.
It's
I want to try that.
It is really, really neat. And it's not that complicated. Now, at a 4-player game, especially because I played it, all 4 players were new to it, it was a little while. It says 60 minutes on the box. It took us nearly 3 hours to play the game.
Oof. Yeah.
And again, it's just because there's...
Sure.
There's...
Yeah. 4 brand new players.
Like I was telling them, like, now that we've played this and we know how everything works, I think it'll go faster. I don't think it's going to be 60 minutes at 4 players. I do not believe... Maybe if that's all you play, then you'll hit 60 minutes. Honestly, this is closer to a 2-hour game for me at a 4-player count. Yeah. Now, I don't think it says per player. No, it says 45 to 60 minutes, so it's not per player. But I have played it. It's really neat what it does. You get 3 books. It's industry, science, and travel or something like that. And what you're doing is you take 6 actions on you. So we're playing roughly 15 rounds. You can take one of 6 actions on your turn, which then can multiply into several other actions on your turn. So like, if I do a page out of my book, I could do this to gain a paper, and then I could spend that paper to write something in my book for that cost instead of what that cost is up there. Because you'll have some pages above your board. You'll have some pages that you can bid on, or not bid on, but like you can say, okay, I'm going to take 2 of these pages and put them here, and then when I want to write them in the page, I have to pay the cost of wherever they're at.
Okay.
And so it has a really neat mechanism with the writing the pages and stuff like that. And so what happens when you use a page, you turn the page, and so now you have like different pages in there. You each all have your own individual scoring things that you want to get to at the end of the game, because the highest score wins. And so the way it works is like, say you're on green, it tells you need to have 3 different symbols of pages. And if then I'm like, okay, I meet that objective, you can go somewhere on a track, take that objective off. Now I need 4 different symbols of objectives for me to score those points at the end of the game. All right, well, I have met that one. Let me go over here. Let me pull that one off. This way I could try to meet this one over here. Right. And that one says you need 4 different objectives and one of a certain type. So like this one is like communication. So I need to get another communication in that book. And so you're just doing all that to try to get you the most points, where you have to pull the stuff off for you to try to score the bottom one. However, if you don't meet that requirement of the 3rd one at the end of the game, you lose all that progress in points.
Ooh.
So it's kind of like, do I pull it off? Yeah.
Right.
Do I pull that off or not? Another thing, one of the hardest ones is the yellow book. This is the one I call Travel. I forget what it's actually called in the. I think it's Trade is what it's called in the books.
Yeah.
And so this one, you have to put the symbols in a specific way, and they can't be broken up by another symbol. Like, you start with pages that are just basically your starting pages. They don't have a symbol on them. So they could be in the middle of it as long as you're turning the pages and your symbols are matching. So like mine, I concentrated for most of the game, and I shouldn't have, because it's one of the harder books. It gives you the most points. It gives you 24 points. But I concentrated on getting everything in the right order in that. I didn't concentrate on most of the other stuff that I needed to do to get points. So I just be forewarned, the trade one is the hardest one. It also gives you the most points. I think it's 24 points if you pull it off.
Okay.
Mine had to go ship, donkey, cart, cart, ship. And that's how I had to put them into the book. And when I was like reading the rules, I was like, oh, I messed up. I should have pulled the cart one instead. This way I could start it from the top. Book of Time reminds me of the Big Book of Madness. Nothing like Big Book of Madness. I played that one. That's a deck builder. This is nowhere near that. Yep. This is a engine builder through and through. Your 6 actions are using pages from your book. You use the back page and the front page, and then you turn it and do those actions. You can write pages into your books, and then you pay the resources over where they're at. You can move up on a track by paying the resources there. You get to take pages and put them in your track, and I think there was I can't remember what the 6th action is, but it's pretty much about getting pages. Yeah.
The conceit.
Yeah, it's got a lot of stuff going on in it, but it's so good. It's really, really good. I want to play this again. That's how much I really enjoyed it.
I definitely agree with Luminous though. Like the theming, like the flavor that you probably get from it.
In a sense, this one to me, it's the Big Book of Madness is all about building a grimoire in a sense, right? Right. This one is about you're writing the history of a civilization. So, interesting. Okay. Yeah, so that's what you're doing. So like your travel, like when you're doing the trade pages, you'll see like it's a ship going around the Horn of Africa, or going through certain straits and stuff like that, or the Silk Road and stuff like that, some of the artwork on there. So it's more civilization based. So like the economy books is like jazz music and just basic invention like writing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then,
I can't wait to try
it. It's really, really neat. I really do like it. I can see the binder part of it actually wearing out pretty quickly, as much as you have to open and close it, but it is so good. I really enjoyed it.
Cool. Awesome. Books of Time. My next one I want to talk about, and I'm going to give a quick warning. I apologize very much in advance for all of the pronunciations I am going to do terribly wrong here. I played Scoventir, which is a solo game from Impatience Games. It's their brand newest title. It is based on, I think, Danish folklore, where you are basically spirits of the forest fighting against their version of the devil, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You are a badger called Vogter.
You are a badger.
You in this game too, and you're playing. You have a wooden meeple that's screen printed, and it's a badger called Vogter, and you're the one who you're playing as that character, making calls and doing actions. Where you're running away from Gamla Eric, I think his name is, and he's basically this weird demonic human guy, like their devil thing. Anyway, the meeple is like no joke, like that big. It's big. It's almost the size of a normal card. Well, anyway, you have these forest tiles that are out. There's 6 of them, and you're basically trying to maneuver away from him. Because the way you win is by defeating his 6 minions that you're going to be defeating. That take 2, 3, or 4 cards to defeat. Gamla Eric, if he ever gets to your character, your pawn, you lose immediately. So don't let that happen while trying to defeat his minions. Okay. I'm going to say this right now. The rulebook, a little tough. It was hard to understand, especially the fact that I don't know the folklore, which I will give it credit for that. That's
I think
fine.
A big part of it, too, is that Impatience Polish? German?
Belgium.
Yeah, so he probably speaks pretty good English, but the translation aspect of it, too. Because I had the same problem with Books of Time.
Right.
Because it's translated from Polish.
Right.
It's Polish.
And I don't remember... I don't remember if it came from a different language or not, but I do know that it was, for some reason about it, it was just kind of tough to, maybe I was just in the wrong mindset. But anyway, you have a deck of cards, and you have a few that are going to be face up, and it's called the Future, and there's 3 of them, and those are normally the ones you can get a hold of. In order to get the cards in your hand, though, you would basically have to pay a penalty to take a specific card. Like, it might be move Gamla Eric forward. It might be, discard another card that was already in there. It might be do all sorts of different things that you have to do in order to just get that card in your hand, in order to call for them. Then to play them, you either use them as their ability, which is normally much better. Like some of the abilities let you just take 2 cards from the future without doing the penalties. Or one is move Gamla Eric back 3 spaces. All really cool options. Yep. However, in order to defeat the minions, you have to play these cards on there, and that means you don't get their ability, because some of the cards might get placed face up into the forest, and they might get the forest cards might get damaged, in which they are. You flip it over, and then if they get damaged again, you have to get rid of them, thus making the forest smaller and easier for him to catch up to you. And so there's a really cool timing aspect to it. Whenever you draw a Gamla Eric card from the future, he immediately moves forward a space, and you shuffle him back into the deck. Or you throw him onto the bottom, sorry. But then he comes right back. So all of those cards that you're getting, you can never hold on to him. You have to do it. And if he's the furthest left on the future, you must take him, if that's the case. You need to take any cards. Normally you can choose anywhere in there, but if he's on the furthest left, you got to take him, and then they slowly start whittling in. So this timing is really cool, and it works really well. The first game, I got destroyed. It wasn't even close.
Well, that sounds about right for Impatience game. I remember the first time I played on Naira, I got destroyed.
It hurts. It hurts. And see, the cool part about it is that each of these 5 characters that you're calling on, you have to have, like, basically a set of them. In order, like, the 2 biggest minions, you need 4 of each of them.
Okay.
Which means I have to take 4 of the same character and play them in order for me to defeat that minion, which is doable, but there's 5 copies of the card in the game.
Okay.
So that hurts, right? And when you focus on that, it was a little bit easier. Now, here's the problem, though, is that if you're using them for abilities, you're discarding them, and you're not using them for their sets. But then you're already paying the penalty by taking the cards in the first place. So I wasn't understanding this at first. I was like, oh, I'll use this ability, I'll mitigate this stuff, I'll do that, and I just got destroyed. Second time I played it, I actually beat it, because I was like, okay, now I start to understand. It's like, really, I need to focus on the sets, and then I need to use the abilities as a backup, even though I'm suffering all these penalties.
Okay.
It was cool. I actually had a lot of fun. It is 1 to 4 players, but I played it as a solo game because that's really there's really no.
That's what Impatient's about.
Yeah, it's has to be like solo focused, but will work with multiplayers.
Yeah.
I was actually really impressed by it.
Okay.
It's up there. It's up there with on the same peg as a lot of the Oniverse series. It had some really smart choices in it. So Scoventir from Impatient's game.
Alright, so the last game I'm going to talk about, we were talking about this, Sunday, when we were watching the Spiel des Jahres stuff, which we'll get into in a few weeks.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
This one, after playing it, I could have seen winning the Spiel, but it didn't. Spoiler. But I really did enjoy it. It's 4 to 8 players, I think is what it is.
Wait, where did you play this?
At my friend's house, Angel Maria's, on Saturday.
Did you buy a copy of it?
Yeah, I own a copy.
Oh,
It came in with Books of Time.
I didn't realize you got a copy.
Yeah, I have a copy of it. Remember, I was looking for it when we were up in Albuquerque, never found it, so I just ordered it.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is fun facts. I like this game. Me and the wife were talking about it. This is probably her least favorite out of the 3, but she still enjoyed it.
I agree with that.
This one is because it's not really a game.
Right. It is just a really fun activity.
Yeah, that's really all it is. It's a good, breaking of the ice. So I lent it to my friends because they were having a company picnic that Sunday, and she has new employees. So she's like, "Can I borrow this?" I'm like, "Yeah, knock yourself out." And what it is basically is you draw a card and it asks a question. It could be like on a scale of 0 to 100, what is your likelihood to skydive? And so what happens is the first player puts out what they think there is, and it's all hidden information. And then the next player has to choose if they think they're going to be above or below the first player. Do you think she's going to like skydiving more than me? So they have to place it there. I knew I was going to be at the bottom because I have no interest in skydiving. I was like, no way, no how. I put a 0.
But where do you think I would put in that? Like, what number would I put? Right, that's the game.
That's the game. It's like you have to figure out, okay, if I'm playing against this guy, what's his interest to it? So I know for a fact I'm going to be on the lowest, and because I put a 0, I was like, nope, I'm going all the way at the bottom.
No, what do you think my number would be on a scale from 1 to 100 or 0 to 100?
I think yours would probably be like a 78.
Wow, you really think I would go for it, huh?
Yeah.
Mine would be a 2. I would be scared out of my mind. I do not like that idea at all.
I don't like that idea at all. That's why mine, out of 0 to 100, I put a 0. And so I really, really did enjoy it.
I'm not going to say no. I figured I would do that
say,
if,
oh, hell no.
If I had to make an emergency exit from a plane, I would skydive.
You know what I would say?
You would just go down with the plane?
Well, though, it's funny because people always ask me, I'm like, why am I going to jump out of my perfectly plane? Okay, what if it's going down? I'll take my chances. Tom Hanks survived it in Castaway. I think I can do it.
Right.
There's a possibility. But, no. Because in all honesty, I'd probably die just skydiving. I'll have a heart attack in midair.
Right. I would only do it in case of an emergency, then I'd do it. But I probably wouldn't try to put myself in that position.
No.
Yeah. And so that's the part of what makes the game cool.
It's like you're trying to figure out.
Oh yeah, he's a 78. He's
up there. Yeah. And so I'm gonna go down this way. Yeah. Nope, ain't doing it. So I know I'm gonna be at the bottom. And most people who do know me know I'm not gonna be at the bottom.
Right.
Ain't doing it.
Yep. So we ended up playing this game. I started hosting a game night with some of my coworkers to team building. And this was the best game I could have brought. They loved this because it opened up that conversation.
It's a great team building.
It was like an hour-long game.
If you have, let's say, you're a teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my friend, they're a business owner.
Yep.
This is a great way to introduce new people that you're not used to just yet. She hired 2-3 new people.
Yep.
And she was having them over for their company picnic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, go ahead and borrow it because, Creator Chaos agrees with me. She'd probably stay on the plane too.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
It's such a phenomenal game. She's like, I'm probably going to have more people than the 8-player count. I'm like, that's fine. You have just one. Just use the dry erase boards in there because you can use the card one to protect the one that's supposed to hold the card side. You can just use that to protect the writing. Because you just put it face down. That's all you got to do. And then you just flip it as you go along.
Yep.
And we were making the game out of it by, you're the first player, so just flip yours first.
Yeah.
And then to see how everybody's reaction is like,
oh, that's fun. That's a fun idea. I like that.
Yeah.
Because you just hear the communal.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought you were so much higher.
Because we were actually doing it in the proper way, and I'm like, you know what? You just flip yours first. Let's see how it happens. And sure enough, she flipped it, and there was like grounds, and I'm like, well, I'm in the right spot, so I don't know what you guys are complaining about.
That's funny.
But yeah, no, fun facts. It's a great activity. It is somewhat of a fun game because all it really is, it's co-op in a sense, and you're just trying to make the most point total. Yep. Depend wherever you're on a scale. So it's really just an activity more than anything, but it's still fun.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And then Illuminous, yes, Mantis is actually surprisingly fun. Like, it shouldn't be as fun as it is. I played at a restaurant with my family, and they loved it. It actually works really well. I'm actually increasingly impressed with Ken Gruhl's designs, and I know he was a co-designer on that. So I can recommend Mantis if you want like a good icebreaker. Pretty good stuff.
I don't know. Fun facts though for icebreaking.
Fun facts is great, yeah. But I mean, like if you want a very casual just like thing, Mantis is actually surprisingly fun.
Who in the heck is he laying?
I don't know. He has his paw around my ankle. So. Last game I wanted to talk about, I'll go pretty quick because we're already
almost about an hour, yeah.
But I played a game that I was very excited to get, and I definitely got it, and I was incredibly excited to play it because it just sounded really cool, and we ended up playing it, and I was thoroughly impressed. This is Disney animated.
Okay, I thought you were gonna go with the new film.
Nope, Disney animated. Yeah, I thought about it. No, Walt Disney animated from Funko Games.
I still want to pick me up a copy of this.
It's fantastic. It is so good.
I've heard really good things online about it.
So, okay. I like Villainous a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really cool game how it works. And this is a very different game, but it has a very similar feel, but now co-op. Now we're working together to defeat the villains. The components are amazing. The theming is fun, because the premise of the game is simple. You are animating these classic Disney films, and the villains from these films, like you have, I forget the one in Fantasia, but you have like Cruella de Vil.
Balrog?
Balrog, yeah, something
like that. Yeah. No, Balrog is Lord of the Rings, but
yeah,
whatever it is. Something with a B.
Yeah, Beelzebub, sure. But no, then you have Cruella, then you have Jafar from Aladdin, and every character works differently. And you're each playing as a different film. But these villains know that at the end of the film, they're going to be defeated. So they want you to not make the film so that doesn't happen. So these villains are fighting against you animating the film that they're in. What a bizarre premise. But the components... Chernabog, there you go. We knew there was a B in there. Beelzebub. So, no, it's a really cool premise. It's definitely weird, but it does the same action selection that Arc Nova does.
Really?
Is that yes? You have a few. You can either get paints for different kinds of panels. You can draw certain cards to help you defeat against the bad stuff that's happening every round. You can play a song, which is your own unique ability, and they will all work in different ways. Like my friend, he was Snow White, so he played as. He would hand out the 7 Dwarves tokens, where mine I was playing as Fantasia, so I had to put song tokens on the actions that were there.
Okay.
The genie, my other friend was playing as Aladdin, so he had the genie token, which he would put above an action, and when somebody else took it, they would get a bonus action each. And so just different things like this. But once you're done animating the film, you have your own unique way to defeat the villain. It was cool. I was genuinely impressed with it, and I'm super intrigued to try it again, and probably again and again. This is a game that's going to keep hitting my collection.
What it sounds to me is this was Prospero Hall's way of taking back that Disney mechanism for villainous.
I feel so. And like, it's a very different mechanism. Yeah. But I feel very much like they saw Arc Nova make that action selection, and they're like, that's cool. How can we do that? And they applied it to Disney in a really smart way. It's not as complicated as it looks at first, because it does look very complicated. It does take a while, but you are so engaged, and your choices really matter.
I'm hoping this does well, because this sounds like this is basically Funko's answer to Villainous, in a sense. And two, this could possibly be the second or third game that they finally decide to start expanding.
Right. It does say Volume 1 on it.
Yeah.
So I mean, and they could easily just sell the packs, and they even include tuck boxes specific to the characters. Now, I'm gonna have one caveat that I want to put in there. There's only one thing I was disappointed in.
Yeah, I know this one already.
And it was part of the components. They come shipped with these tiles that are in the scenes that you're animating. And those tiles, unfortunately, on one of my boards, like I think the glue spilled out and started tearing up the pictures. I will say I contacted Funko. They were kind enough to send me a copy soon. I actually got the notification pretty soon. Not a copy of the game, but that board.
Yeah.
They won't replace. They do say on their board they won't, or on their website that they don't replace boxes or rule books or anything like that. But like specific components that you really need for the game, like that. Yeah, they'll help out. And mine was only functionally is fine. Just aesthetically it was torn up a bit. So not a big deal. And they were cool to send it, and they didn't have to.
That's because they're not Asmodee, thank God.
Yeah, no, they very well could have. And I was a little worried because I was hoping. I'm glad they didn't just send. Oh, we'll take it back to the store you bought it from. Well, that's in a different state.
Well, it wasn't in a different state. It was in a different city.
Oh, a different city, but it was still like a distance away that I wasn't going to go.
They still have the same policy.
Yeah, but yeah, either way, I was actually really impressed with it. Walt Disney animated, definitely one of their most complicated games, though. I will give it that.
Yeah.
Out of all the Funko games, I think it is the most. I think it does beat Pan American as far as complicated.
I don't know. That one's pretty tough. I'm trying to think of what else is really.
It's because everything's unique from them.
I'm trying to think. Pan Am is pretty complicated-ish. Godzilla one, that one's a little complicated because the skirmisher aspect of it.
Yeah. All right, cool.
You ready to get into this?
Yeah, we're going to talk about our 8 games that we picked for different player counts, and specifically, each number is the player count. So our number 1 is a 1-player game. What we think really shines
as a solo. Yeah.
Our number 2 is what shines as a 2-player. So on and so forth. We'll talk about those as we go through it.
He's going to decide who's going first by the coin, and I'm going to roll the really tiny die of doom.
So we'll first say what number it is. Go ahead.
7.
So go ahead and put if you're familiar with any 7-player games that you think really shine at 7 players, go ahead and put that in the chat right now. With that being said, you'll be starting.
All right, so the first game on my list here, my number 7 that I'm going to be talking about, is I just talked about. It's a semi-sequel, I guess you could say, along the same lines. This is a Repos game. Illumina says clearly 7 Wonders. For me, it is just
not
one.
Wrong.
I love playing just one at any player count, really. Mm-hmm. But it really is, it shines really well at the higher player count, and 7 is its maximum level. Mm-hmm. And the reason being is because you have a bigger opportunity to losing words as you're guessing. So, because the way just one works is you got a clue 1 through 5, and say someone says Frankenstein. And so then the other 6 players have to come up with a 1-word clue.
That is a very tiny little dinky sound.
So anyways, 1 through 7, you pick your clue, and then everybody has to come up with a 1-word clue for that thing. So say someone says Frankenstein, and I'll say Karloff, and someone will say Universal. And then so if any of those end up matching up, you lose that word. So you can go from 6 possible combos to down to 1. Mm-hmm. It just depends on how it all plays. Because like if 3 people come up with the same word, you lose those 3 words, and now you're down to 2, or down to 3. And out of those 3, 2 people come up with the same one, and you're just down to 1 word for your clue, and it gets a lot more difficult, more clues, and it's really fun because all you hear, like if you have your eyes closed or you're turned around and not watching what's going on over there, and all you hear is like, So, because you can't give any information. Once you're writing your clue down, you can't say, "Oh, I'm going to go for the easy one" or something like that. So it's just you have to be quiet and pick your word and go from there. So it's so fun. It's really, really quick. I play this mostly at 4, but I really do like it at 7 just because it really shines.
Yeah, very good. And Illumina said Spyfall. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Spyfall is amazing at almost any player count. And it's awesome. Resistance is actually really good too. The one I would pick, I know you don't like social deduction, but the one I would pick for my 7-player game is one that normally in this style of game I wouldn't pick an odd number of players because this is a team versus team game. And I was thinking about it, I was like, that normally I would stick with either 6 or 8. Definite. Like Codenames, definitely that.
Mm-hmm.
But I picked Decrypto, and I'll explain why I think 7 is actually a really fun, exciting way. Is because for some reason there's always in a group of 7 people, there is definitely a stigma that one person is like somehow really like good at cracking codes and stuff, and you would put them on the smaller team. And just that prejudgment alone makes it really hilarious going into the rest of the game, because whether they actually, because then I love that meta of it. Like we my friend Jim, who I brought up a number of times during this episode alone, we would definitely put him on the smaller of the two teams, and I would have to be on the opposite team because apparently we are like savants to each other.
Well, it's not just that. The people who have you on the team have an advantage because you and me can see through those red filters.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So we have to like purposely look away, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, like on those, when I'm playing a game, or if Jim is on the team, he's immediately assumed as the person who's going to be the one cracking the codes and stuff. Fine. But when he gives a clue that throws off everybody, that's too niche, that just adds to hilarity. And it works really well. So in this game, you're trying to make a code of like kind of like code words that both teams are going to see, but only the real or only that team who gives the clue knows knows the words that are being clued to.
Yeah.
So like one of your code words might be like Muppet or a pig, right? And you might say ham or miss or Muppet or whatever, right? But knowing that the other people
they don't have to it as well.
Yeah, they don't have to know what the word is, but they have to know what's close to it. So you have to give very specific words that people looking at the word only would understand, and not people listening to the word.
Yeah.
So it's very weird, very specific, and I like that variability. And also the reason I like the odd number is because every round a next person gives the clues, right? And so if you have an odd number, it's not just you and me going head to head, and then the next pair head to head, and the next pair head to head. No, when it comes back around, somebody else is going to be offset, and so you're going to be playing like head to head against other people, and the better clues come in at different times. It works really well at 7.
Cool.
So Decrypto is my pick for 7-player games. Oh, and Camel Up, yeah, that is pretty good at that player count. It gets a riot.
All right, you want to flip the coin?
That's right. How many
roll the
players?
die. We're going 6.
6 players, down by 1. Here we go. You start us off.
All right, so my 6th pick is, and I have played this at this player count. It plays pretty much the same. I don't want to play it at its lowest player count, which is 3 players, just because the way this game works, an odd man out can feel bullied. But this one really shines at the full player count of 6, and that is a game you finally played. And Luminous is going to like this one, Rising Sun.
Oh, yes. Okay.
This game is it's long, so if you have the time to
invest put this on your list just to bring up the fact that I played it, haven't you?
Well, there's just also the fact that it's really fun at 6 because of the tea ceremony, making those alliances, breaking those alliances in the middle of the game, and it allows for like different versions of alliances that can go out there. It's like, okay, and now do I screw the wizard over right now and break said alliance and do something where I could take control of a certain area, take one of their pieces away and put one of my pieces in. So it has like this different aspect. It basically made diplomacy fun in a way because it makes it intriguing how you're going to do certain things.
That's right. Yeah.
And so, and then you have the variable player powers, and then the variability of the different creatures that you could put out there if you have it. Yeah, I agree. TI was originally going to be my pick, but I've never played it at 6 players. And again, it's like a time investment sync. At 3 players, it took us 4 hours. I could just imagine at a 6-player game, it could take us all day. Whereas Rising Sun could be 3 hours, and I can go play something else if it's an all-day gaming event. And so I really, really do like Rising Sun at 6 players. It was fun. We actually played it at the shop, and you saw just all the shenanigans that was going on over there. It's super fun.
Cool. my 6-player game, I picked because you use the full count of cards. Because fewer, you would actually take out cards. I moved my foot just slightly, and so did he. This is a game that I've always enjoyed, and I do appreciate a bigger player count because of the way it scales.
Mm-hmm.
It adds way more to the negotiation of the games, and it really makes it so everyone almost always before their turn will have a stake in the matter on which cards come out. That's Bonanza. Bonanza, amazing negotiation game. Bartering, wheeling and dealing. I love it. And at fewer than that player counts, you use fewer cards, which speeds the game up a little bit. But then also, on top of that, it makes it so less people have a stake in the matter. At like 3 players, there's a very good chance that you're playing with few enough cards where 2 cards come out and they're like, and everyone's like, I don't really want any of that. And it's like, well, how about you? Well, can you take them though, just in case?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
You know, and it's fine. Like that's part of the wheeling and dealing. But at 6 players, almost every card that flips out, they're like, so I see you're going for chili beans, but hear me out. You know, and that alone is what sets it apart. I like Bonanza a lot at that player count, and
such a good one.
It scales really well. It plays up to 7, I think normally. It's pretty good at 7, but it's just slightly long. At 6, that's the sweet spot.
Red Rising is pretty good at 6 players. I think I prefer it at 4. It just moves a little quicker.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm gonna give a belly rub. Don't worry.
All right, moving on to our next one.
All right, here we go.
We're doing number 3.
3-player games. Here we go. Let us know in the comments. You're starting us off.
All right. So my best 3-player game is a game that's made for 2 to 4. I want to say. I can't really remember. Maybe it's 2 to 6. I can't exactly remember. But I won't play it. I'll play it maybe at 4. I won't play it at 2. I won't play it at 5 or 6.
Okay.
I love it at 3. It's a game that you don't like, but it's just how quick and snappy this game is at a 3-player game is the reason why I enjoy it. And it's about combining 2 decks to fight over territories, and this is Smash Up.
I totally understand why you put this at 3.
Yeah.
Because it does outsay its welcome at 4.
It outstays its welcome at 4. It outstays it really at higher player counts. There's not enough player interaction in a 2-player game.
Right.
But at a 3-player game, it's just really, really quick. So, like, one person's doing their stuff, then it goes to the next player, and then it goes to the next player. And then there's a lot more competition on the territories. There's a lot more interaction, I guess you could say. Smart plays. It is very, very good at 3-player game. I really do enjoy it. Through the ages, I enjoy it a 4-player game. It's just really long.
Yeah.
But it's a long game at a 2-player, so it's kind of
it's long regardless. Yeah.
So for me, Smash Up is perfect at 3 players, and I don't really want to play it other than at 3 players.
Yeah. My 3-player game was very similar to that. I feel at 4 players it overstays its welcome, and at 2 players there's not enough player interaction. It's the same reason.
Yeah.
At 3 it really shines. You each get a chance to play the characters that you want to in its own unique way.
I know what this is.
We brought this up earlier.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, it's the one that you wanted to try to show me tonight.
No.
Really?
No.
I thought that was the one you were going to put at 3.
Nope. Disney Villainous.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean...
I agree with you on that.
Like, I don't like it as much at 2-player. It works fine, but
it's fine.
As soon as you play a Fate deck, you know who you're picking. There's no choice in the matter. You're like, all right, here's screwing you over. And it's kind of like the reason why Munchkin is a minimum 3 is just because, like, you don't always want to screw over the same guy.
I do like the fact that they fixed it in Marvel Villainous with the simple fact that there is a Sinner Fate deck.
Yeah,
so
sure.
This way you can also play. You can either play it on the person that comes up, or the group has to mess with it.
Right. But here's the thing: like, if I'm playing really well at 2 players, right, and I'm already beating you, and I pick a spot that happens to have a Fate deck, well, I'm just beating a dead horse at that point.
Yeah,
I
get.
All right, here.
Do not disagree with
at
you.
3 players, you're like, all right, which of you is doing better? Here you go. You know, hand it to the person. But then at 4 or more, it's just too long.
It gets long, very long.
Yeah.
So, I played this. I think it's what, 2 to 5.
Something like that.
I've played it at 5 players. I've played it at 4 players. I'm okay at 4 players.
Sure.
Especially because the people I play it with at 4 players have played enough of it that it goes faster. Sure. But if I'm teaching new players, I want to do a 3.
Right.
3-player game. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that one.
Yep. Exactly.
And like I said,
Disney
Marvel Villainous really did a good job about fixing the 2-player
Sure.
aspect with the group Fate deck.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I just think it shines 100%. Like, that's my favorite way to play it. 3-player game. Marvel Villainous. Love it. Next player count.
Solo.
1. Our best solo game. You'll be starting us off this time.
Alright, so my best solo game.
This is the best solo game. Flipping this coin.
Apparently, my best solo game here is in my top 100 because of what it is. Robinson Crusoe is your favorite solo game?
Sweet.
So nice.
Yeah,
or Mage Knight. Yeah. So for me,
I didn't know Mage Knight.
This one is only a solo game. You already know what it is. Final Girl.
Yep. Figured that one.
I really do enjoy it. In fact, I just recently played another. This one I was like, I really wanted to get the Dr. Fright in, the Freddy Krueger version. So I put Nightmare on Elm Street in the background. I was playing the solo game of Dr. Fright in what is it? Frightmare on Maple Lane, I think is what it's called.
I haven't played Lawyer Up yet.
I haven't played that, but it is so fun. It was so difficult too because in that one there's a special rule that you have to pick up cards that makes you try to talk to people to let you come in their house.
That's fun.
And I'm like, oh my god, and you have to roll the dice. But what's neat about it is I can't attack Dr. Fright and he can't attack me unless I'm in the dream world. And there's a little game mechanism on the Dr. Fright version of it where there's 4 cards in the dream world. It's called the Boiler Room or something like that.
Okay.
And so you have to, at the end of every round, if you're asleep, you have to move the card a certain direction. You go up, left, or right. And if you go up, because you only cover half the card, if you don't see his face, then you're good. But if you do see his face and he shows up like in the either the top 2 corners or the bottom 2 corners, if you don't see his face, then you get hit. And he hits for it don't matter where he's at in the map, he hits you because you're in Dream World. So it's very interesting. That so far is my favorite one I've played.
Yeah.
I'm only got one more from the first season that I have to play. Dr. Fright is so far my favorite right now.
That's cool.
And just because how it works. I ended up winning it by sheer dumb luck.
Yeah.
Because he literally in the first turn he put me in the dream world, and we were like almost next to each other. So my next action was going over there, and I had enough time because there's not really much you can do while you're awake.
No.
So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go over here. I'm gonna rescue these guys, and I'm gonna save the rest of my time to grab that critical hit. And so I knocked him for 3 damage, and he had 11 like on the first turn. But I also had my small strikes. Yeah. So I did luck enough where I did more damage to him. So like after the second turn, I've already did 6 damage to him out of 11.
Wow.
So I got lucky in the dice rolls there, but then he started chunking me down, so I had to heal myself, and luckily I got healed. So it took me about 5 or 6 turns to finally defeat him. But it was getting down there. He actually killed me, but I had that black die when I pulled it up. I got 3 more health. So I had the extra health one. I'm like, oh, thank God. And when I took him down, he got no more health. So I was like, oh, luck was on my side this time.
That's right. Cool.
Yes, I saw that the Series 3 Kickstarter is coming.
I might have to get... Anyway. No, don't tell me this. Shut up and take my money. Don't tell me this. No,
October.
That's a very good thing.
In fact, while the Kickstarter is going on, they're going to release something very special. Because when the Kickstarter falls, there's going to be a Friday the 13th.
That's cool. Okay, that's fun. So, yeah, give Rand Rider your money. They're great people.
They're really great, yeah. And then I love... they're doing really good. Like, I want to get into the box 2, but I want to finish box 1.
Right. So, I talked with a few of the people at the trade show when we were talking about it, and one of the guys, he specifically said, not the main designer, but he was like, yeah, it's like, I play this game with my wife all the time. I was like, it's a solo game. He was like, let's be real. If you want to play a multiplayer, you can play a multiplayer. Mm-hmm. You just sit there and you just discuss the choices.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest. Like,
yeah.
It was like, that's my preferred way to play it. Yes, it's a solo game. Yeah. But that doesn't mean you can't play multiplayer. And so, like, and I was like, I'm not sure where you're going with that. But then the other day at the shops, I was recommending it to somebody, and they're like, yeah, but it's a solo game. I'm like, let's be real. You can play it. Like, just, like, you're both working together. It's co-op. But, yeah, there's the one final girl. You're just controlling it. It's like, you play it however you want. But it can be done solo, but yeah, you can play it with like 2 or 3 players.
Yeah,
if you really want
honestly,
to.
I think it would be fine at 2 players. I don't know, 3 players, more decisions, stuff like that.
What really matters is how much theme that game provides, and it really does.
So good. I really enjoy it a lot.
And my number one, this is no surprise.
Your solo game.
Yeah. My number one solo game. No surprise. Onirim. Yeah. It's a game that I don't want to play with other people. It's like because you can. It's a 1 to 2 player game. Like, and it's fine. I'm sure it's fine playing it. He's right behind me. It's totally fine playing it as a 2 player game. It's fine, but I don't like the idea of like dealing with a communal couple cards. It wasn't how it was originally intended. It works really well. You have good, meaningful choice. You have control over what you're doing. You determine your fate. I'm at about a 50% win rate, maybe 60% win rate now. But I still play this at least once a week. Still.
Yeah.
And I just love it.
In all honesty, if you don't have the game and want to try it out, it has a really good spiffy app.
Yeah, that app is really good quality. I highly recommend it to anybody who just wants to give it a try. It's a
great bathroom app.
It is. It's a great pooping app.
I wasn't going to go that graphic.
Our friend explicitly says that's how he plays it.
Yeah.
It's a pooping app. It's so terrible. That's my favorite solo game. I think
I don't disagree with you. I like that one a lot. And it probably would have been my favorite solo game if Final Girl hadn't come out.
Right. A lot of the theme, but again, I want a little bit more strategy.
I love the theme. I'm a theme guy. Yep. And because I love horror films so much, in this, like I said, I had Nightmare on Elm Street in the background while I'm playing this. So at times when I'm like struggling trying to kill it, all you hear is screaming from the TV, and I'm like, yes, this is about right. He just slaughtered that person over there, and now they're panicking.
That's awesome. That's a great way to play that game.
Yeah.
All right, next player count.
Next player count is 4.
All right, we haven't done 4 yet, and you'll be starting us off.
What else is new? So my 4-player game pick is a game I've talked about a lot. I own quite a bit of this game. I was thinking like how I would want to put Gloomhaven in here, but I decided, you know what, I talk about Gloomhaven a lot, and it plays really well
good
solo.
Yeah.
But this one I really, really enjoy at 4 players because I mainly play this at 4 players because I like the fact that the bad guy, the villain, because it's a co-op game, it's going to get more turns. There's going to be more actions with the villains, so they're going to pop off a little bit more. This one is Marvel United.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I love the comic book aspect of it where you're using your other person's card that played before you in your card, basically, on the time track. So that's your components for you to go punch this guy or to go rescue these people and being, the superhero that you are.
Yeah.
I really do enjoy it. I've played it solo. I've played it at 2 players. I played it at 3 players. And I played it at 4 players. I played it at every player count. And for me, the solo game is I know they changed it, I think, more recently with the newest one expansion that's coming, or Kickstarter that's coming out. But what I like about the 4-player, like I said, is that the villain fires off a lot more because it's like after every 3 turns until you hit a certain requirement.
Yeah.
And the other one, it's just it's still the same thing every 3 turns, but then people are taking like 1 or 2 actions before the villain goes off in a 3-player game. And the solo play, you're basically combining 3 decks, and what cards come up is when you determine to play. So like if I have like 3 different cards, but I really need like Wolverine to go off, but I don't have a Wolverine card in my hand, then I have to use one of the other individuals that I have. So 2 players, it's a lot more simpler. And another reason why I like it at 4 players, it's much more difficult because he's got a higher health count. He fires off a little bit more. He does a little bit more things because he's firing off more.
Yeah.
That's why I really do enjoy this game at 4 players.
Cool. My 4-player game, I only ever played this game at 4 players on purpose because I understood the annoyance of playing it at fewer player counts, and it maxes at 4, but it works at 4 because that's how it was. I feel like it was very strongly designed for this. Yeah, and so much to the point that when we lost one of our players for this, we got somebody else to join in to take their place to keep it as a 4-player game. This is a scenario game that plays over multiple campaigns.
Is it Time Stories?
Time Stories,
okay.
Yeah, 100%. Because here's the thing. Time Stories, one of the big mechanisms that you do in the game is you send your people out to kind of look around, to look at the location in each of the cards. At 4 players, we would spread out, and we would see more locations. At a 2-player, you're playing as a 4-player game, which means that you get twice as much information but less story. Less, it doesn't feel like it because you're like, oh, well, I'm looking at 2 point of views from the same thing. Where really I should only be looking at 1. And then the 3-player count, they do have some little things. It's like if you're playing with 3 players, here's a little bonus to it. But again, that is 25% less from every single turn that you're doing. And so it's just, I don't think it scales well. 4-player was absolutely the sweet spot, and I'm glad we played the entirety of the campaign with 4 players at all times, and it worked really well. It was just a phenomenal experience the whole time we did. Yeah, and I understand, like, I've heard a lot of counter arguments. That's fine. I apologize that it didn't work well for you. It worked really well for my group, and that was one of my favorite games
I think
of all time.
For me, it just kind of fell off because there was a falling out in the group that was playing. And so I never really got it back to the table. Couldn't really get the rest of the center because we were maybe halfway through the third scenario.
Do you think you ever will?
No, I sold it. I have the base game still, but
if somebody said it's like, hey,
I might try it. Yeah, I at one point I was thinking about doing it as a solo game. Yeah. But even then, it wouldn't work all that well. But at least I'd get the story.
Yeah.
But it was to the point where there was a falling out. Like when I say 2016, we were about halfway through the third scenario, and honestly, my wife, I talked to my wife about it because I was holding on to it, and she's like, "There's so many other good campaign games that we're enjoying."
Gloomhaven being one.
Gloomhaven being one. We like Return to Dark Tower a lot. We have a great time with that one. The scenario-based aspect of it. And so she was just like, what is that? Kids on Bike, the Stanley Gester situation. We really enjoy that one. The most recently, the Stranger Things Upside Down, we really enjoyed. And she's like, you've had it for 7 years, and we haven't played it.
Yep.
What's the point of keeping it?
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I'm like, you're fair. Right. Yeah.
Yep. And that scenario, like I said, we lost a player because they moved. And we're like, wow, like, do we continue as a 3-player game? But since we like the experience so much, like, let's find somebody else and let's just catch them up to that. And we did. We ended up playing all of it.
Now, mind you, I've only seen 3 scenarios. The base one, the first expansion, and Prophecy of Dragons. However, I will say this. If you get a chance to play Time Stories, and you enjoyed the first scenario, I highly recommend Marcy Case. That was my favorite.
Yeah.
Everybody says Prophecy of the Dragon's their favorite, and we only got halfway through it. But the story that Marcy Case was telling was really, really good.
Yeah, I agree. And we didn't bring up Keyflower is what Illuminous said for 3-player games. And then for 4 players, Chronicles of Crime.
I don't disagree with him on that one.
Yeah, Chronicles of Crime. I
think I like Chronicle of Crimes at a lower player count, like 2 or 3 players.
Same. Yeah, I like pitching like the ideas. 4 players is fun to like really like focus and kind of have a multitude of minds. But then like just the AR experience, like passing it 4 times.
Would be another one. I really like Marvel United, but what another good 4-player game would be in this one? Detective, yeah.
Because
everybody would have a role.
Yep.
All right, next player count is, since we've already done 3, it's 2.
2. Here we go.
Starting with you.
Finally, I start. So my favorite 2-player game, you actually brought it up earlier. Yeah, because you thought it was the 3-player.
Spirit Island.
It's slightly too long, and it shines so well at a 2-player game. I love working together with one other person. It works really well. I would play it solo, but I don't think it'd be as fun. I play with my son a lot. He loves this game, and I played it at a 3-player. I've only played it at 2 or 4.
Yeah.
And 4 was definitely way too long. And 4, it was weird because since there's so much thought and effort put into one side, yes, you can discuss, but then as soon as one person was like, okay, well, you know what, I'm going to play this though, then everyone else has to regroup. And that was annoying.
And it wasn't just that, because you mentioned something about like our mutual friend Jim.
Yep.
You were like saying something along the lines like, he's like, I can do this and take care of this, and you're like, yeah, but then I get a certain ability, right. And that he was basically stuck on his.
And I was like, I can do it, but also slightly better. And he was like, well, then now I don't really have much choice in my turn.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and it took him out, and that's a very fair argument.
Yeah.
And at 3-player, I feel like it would be fine, but it would still add. It's roughly about like 45 minutes per player. I think realistically, 30 minutes could be if you're doing either really good or really bad.
That's fine. I bought myself the smaller version just to try it out.
No, again,
especially since it was $15 at Target.
It's 100% worth it at a 2-player. That is my favorite. That is by far. If I have a 2-player game, like I want a good meaty co-op, Spirit Island, 100%. Like that's gonna be the one I pick off the shelf because I want to play it right now, and it's great. A 3-player, I'd be like, it might take us a while. 1-player, I'm probably not going to do it because I have plenty of good solo games, and definitely not a 4-player game.
All right, so my 2-player game is a head-to-head battler. It's my favorite of all the.
I originally had Jaipur, but I'm like, this is too obvious. No, I really like.
No, but it's not. Mine's not Jaipur. I'll tell you.
No, I know. I'm saying
mine's a skirmisher game that really shines as a head-to-head.
Oh, okay.
Because at 4 players, you got to play on a team.
Okay.
There is with the newer expansions, they give you like a battle royale. The battle royale really works at 3 players.
Mm-hmm.
It could be fine at 4 players, but I just love the head-to-head combat of Unmatched. I really do enjoy a lot of the expansions. I've gotten into the Marvel expansion stuff, which they do some really intriguing stuff. But I still think, and you can't find it anymore, so if you find it in the wild, I highly recommend you picking up this version of it. It's called Cobble and Fog. Mm-hmm. It has Dracula, I think Sherlock, the Invisible Man, and Jekyll and Hyde.
Yep.
I highly recommend someone picking up that one because, one, they're not printing it anymore. They're basically putting it in the library or something like that. So if you can find it in the wild, I pick up that copy. If not, then any of the other ones are fine. They actually sell 2-player sets. They sell 3-player sets. The new Marvel stuff is 3-player sets. So you have a plethora of stuff to pick. It's really good. It's really quick. It's got a good tackle. You and me always talk about like Funkoverse versus Unmatched. We had a whole episode about that.
Yep.
I like Unmatched because there's a lot more agency in there. You're not beholden to certain dice rolls and how your powers are charging and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're just beholden to what cards you draw. And there's really cool stuff like Houdini and the Genie. Yeah. That is a great pack. If you can find that 2-player version, I highly recommend that one. Unmatched, great. Yeah, Illuminous agrees with me.
That's the only Unmatched I own is the Houdini.
It's such and you like it. It's just not you prefer Funko because of the lighterness of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it is phenomenal, and you can do that whole thing like, hey, how would Daredevil do against Raptors? Yeah. And so like things you wanted to see, or how would Sherlock go up against say someone like Bullseye, or I don't want more. Yeah, I want to try the digital version of it. The storage system is clunky, but hey, it's going to allow me to get everything. And for some of them, you could put 2 characters in one box. So I'm looking forward to that because it's a big storage set. But yeah, Unmatched is so good. I do want to try the digital version of it on the Switch, and I've heard really good things about it. But yeah, I love that game just by itself. I honestly would be okay if they stop using minis and go to acrylic standees.
Yep.
Just because, like, what is it, Sorcerer's Arena?
Yep. Cool.
But yeah, Unmatched. I thoroughly love that game. As you can see, it's like all right. You can't really see it on the screen, but it's all right here.
Yeah, there's a lot of it. All right. 5 or 8-player. Let's see which one.
All right. See what comes up.
That's what we have left.
8.
All right. Cool. So 8 players. You'll be starting us.
My 8-player game. This is the game that I own actually.
Oh, that's such
I
a
have
good
not played
one.
that one. I have not played that one.
Illuminous.
And Illuminous put up Captain Sonar.
That's a solid choice.
For us, we said 8. This is 8+ players because some of us will do better. I have one game that could hold 8+ players, but it also could hold up to 13 if you have one of the expansions.
Yeah.
This is the only social deduction game I actually enjoy. Outside of the player card versions of Mafia and stuff like that, if you have a good person running it. No. For me, this one is Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. Because what I like about this is that you have a murderer, you have an accomplice, they pick the murder weapon, they pick one of the other things in there, and one person is running it, trying to give clues to the rest of the group. What I like about this is there's no basically armchair. Everybody gets a set amount of time to discuss who they think it is and what it was based on the clues. And so, yeah, this is the only deduction game I will play.
The only one. And it's true and true, straight up social deduction.
But it's the way it works, because you don't have people talking over each other. If you want to talk over someone and make an accusation, you have to use your badge, but then you're done. You can't make your accusations. You can't do anything like that. I like the fact that it like tones down a lot of the alpha gaming that some social deduction games can get.
Yeah.
And especially when you have someone like our mutual friend Jim, who knows how to play that system.
Yeah, he knows how to work the meta.
Yeah, so and then you have like a witness. It's phenomenal. It does really, really well. I do like this. It's still it's the only massive. I think Wits and Wagers could hold up to a certain amount, but even then, I don't bust Wits and Wagers out all that much.
Yeah.
The only other one I could think of, but I don't know the player count that can go that high, is Ready Set Bet. And I don't think
it can go up to 9 technically, but 8 it's 9 with somebody
running the horses. Yeah. So for me, Blood on the Clock Tower. Yeah, I that's the new hotness everybody's all in love with. But for me, Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, it's very simple. It actually plays pretty quickly. It goes down really well.
Cool. Illuminous, I gotta give you credit. If I had thought of that.
I'm surprised you didn't think of that.
I'm surprised I didn't either, honestly.
Because you're always pushing that.
I love that game, and it should only be played at 8 players. That is the best, because then everyone takes multiple. I'm talking about Captain Sonar. Luminous brought it up. If this wasn't 8+, then like if I had more than 8, I would pick this one. But 8, if I had exactly 8, Captain Sonar, yes, 100%.
Isn't there like a smaller version where it's like 6 players?
It's 4.
4.
Yeah,
okay.
Sonar is 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, because there's four roles for each side, so 8 is like the perfect amount where everyone's talking over each other. They're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't want to play it fewer, because then that means one player has to do double the work.
All right, but that's not your pick. So what is your
pick? That's not my pick. But mine is for a large group, 8+. If I have a group of 8 people, I am picking this one, and it's not so much a social. It's not a social deduction. It's more of a party game, but it is definitely a great party game for players. It is more of a game than just a party game. This is Dead Last.
I'm surprised you went with that one. I thought you were going to do the Ukrainian Party Playoff.
No, yeah, that's good. But if I want to play a good meaty game, I love the backstabberiness of Dead Last. You're right with Party Playoff. That is one of my go-tos as well.
The only thing I like about Dead Last is the dilemma.
Yes.
The prisoner's dilemma.
The prisoner's dilemma at the end. Well, I love how it's like you could end around. You have 90 seconds to discuss in any way you want what you're gonna do. You could stay silent. You can go into another room. You can blatantly say what you're going to do. You can try and bluff. It doesn't matter. But at the end of that 90 seconds, you all vote for someone to be eliminated. Whoever gets the most votes to be eliminated is removed from the game, and anybody else who didn't vote for them is also removed from the game from that round. I love that. You have to be part of the majority, and you might not know any information about that. There is multiple times where just to see what would happen is I would take my card of who I'm voting for, and I would point at somebody who is not that person. It's like, I already know who I'm picking at. I know I'm picking you, and I'm purposefully flashing the card to somebody else so they can see that I am lying about that, and then setting down my cards like, nah, you can't even have a chance. You're done. And while I'm purposefully acting like I'm bluffing and knowing that I'm giving people my information. It is so fun. It's so validating. You could be so ridiculous, and you could be so confident. It plays with people who are confident, people who aren't confident, people who are just bashful and shy. You can play into that mood. It works so well at almost any player count. But it's a minimum of 8 players. I think. Or no, it's a minimum of 6.
Yeah.
But really, I would only play a minimum of 8. And that's why 8+, I picked that last.
It's a fun game. I'm okay with it. I'm not as much in love with you as you are.
In love with me, sir.
I'm not as much in love with it as you are. I find it fine.
Yeah.
Pitch car is fun.
Yeah.
I've never played it at a higher player count. We've only played a 4-player version of it.
It was fun.
We enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So, our last one is number 5, so you gotta flip the coin.
Flip a coin. Here we go. 5 players. Boom. You go first.
I'm gonna end this up.
I only got once.
So, this one goes, I think it's 2-6. Let me check. 2-6. I really enjoy it, and it's on Kickstarter, or no, GameFound right now.
I already know what it is.
Yeah.
Not a sponsor.
I thoroughly enjoy this game a lot, and I've played it at a 5-player count. I played it. The only one I haven't touched it is at 6.
Okay.
It plays pretty quick, no matter what player count, because everybody's getting a tile on their turn, no matter what. And this is Planet Unknown. It is so good. We just recently played a 4-player version of it. We got it done in 30-45 minutes, and we have 1 new player in that game. It's so quick. I like it at most player counts. 2 is kind of for me, but 3, 4, and 5, and I really like it at 5 players because it's so quick. I have a big group. Like we were talking about it earlier, Villainous. I would not want to play that at 5 again.
No.
It's rough. This one plays relatively as good as a 3-player game, 4-player game, 5-player game, and time. The only difference is someone's getting more choice in that matter. So you're getting less choice in there in a 5-player game because the way it works is if someone can't fill their map or if 2 of one area is completely gone on the tiles. Because you have 1 tile, 1 set in front, or 2 sets in front of you. If both of those are empty at one point, then that's it. And so the in-game trigger doesn't really change because you're still getting a tile every turn. So the turns are pretty much the same. It's just that you're not getting as much choice as the other player counts. Not that it really matters because you're also beholden to other players. It's like why didn't you move it? Why do I got to use these tiles again? But there's the fact that you can play different what are they called? Corporations, different planets, the way different things work. I love this game a lot. It is such a fun game. And in all honesty, this should have been the Kinderspiel winner. And we're going to talk about it when we do discuss the Spiel des Jahres winners, but I highly disagree with, and I like the game that won, who won the Kinderspiel.
Yep. You're very passionate about that. More so than me, and I'm the Spiel follower. Yeah, no, my last one, this is the max play count for it. It plays 2 to 5 players, and 5 is the maximum for it. And the reason I like it is because at a 3 and 4 player, 3 and 4 players on this game, it expands the board. You have more options for different parts of the board. Whereas in 2 or 3 players, it has a smaller version of the board because there's fewer options between them. However, with even player counts with 2 and 4, it just seems like the board is a little loose. Whereas in 3 and 5, it actually seems tighter. And I like this game at all player counts. It actually works and all the scaling does work, but I do think it really shines at 5 players. And especially the biggest concern with 5-player games is that it seems like it would outstay its welcome. Like you have so much time between your turns. In this game, the turns are so fast that it works no matter what. Like they're just so fast. You won't have to wait more than just a couple moments. That's Ticket to Ride.
Okay.
I think Ticket to Ride works really well at 5. I think it shines at 3 as well because it does that same. It gives everyone options, but with the tightness of the board. But with 5, it really does work because it's fast enough. It works. People aren't sitting down. They're taking their turns. They're strategizing, and they have that ability to use their player, their strategy to good effect without seeming like you're just AP prone. The game doesn't allow that really. And then with the expanded board, multiple players, you have a lot of that back and forth. It's like when I see you take a route, I'm like, okay, I have a little bit of time to get in there, but not much. When is that timing? And then if I was the 3rd player in line, I'm hoping both of you don't do it. It's like, because it could come back to me and I might have a chance.
Yeah.
It's cool. It has some cool tension to it. That being said, Ticket to Ride, one of my favorite 5-player games, and it shines at 5 players. So, what did you think of the list?
I like the list. I had fun doing it. It was intriguing how you had to do. Like the higher ones were really difficult for me. So my sweet spot is 4 players. That's mainly where it's either 3 or 4 players is where I play a lot of games.
Yeah.
Because usually our game night is either 3 to 4 players, and my other game group is 4 players. So.
Another game that I think plays really well at like the upper player counts is like Worderific and stuff. But again, you have to wait for all the turns, so it's like but it's fun hearing it. And it just kind of like digs in a little bit if like people have like a bad story. You know, it's like, oh well, like there's no chance they're winning. You know, we gotta feel bad for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some cool ones. With that being said, if you ever want to join us, like our friends Luminous, Creative Chaos, Corrupt Senate, or new one, I think it was something 12 gauge, Grit 12 gauge. Yeah. Thanks for joining us in on chat. Join us at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames and be sure to follow us there so you get notified whenever we do a live episode.
As well as all video re-uploads are found at YouTube, and we officially have our own account now. You can find us at youtube.com/@everydayboardgamespodcast. And if you like what we do there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on the platform. Subscribe if you're not, like the video, and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject. As well as all audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, and Podbean.
And if you want to ever contact us directly, email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com. You can either say hi, enter in a future contest, hint hint, or give us ideas for future episodes, or to send him hate mail.
Or him.
That's where you're going to send it. everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com. With that being said, I actually pulled that segue pretty quickly. We want to thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.